Just wanted to clarify, Darryll, you mentioned a few times POCs, for those that don't know what that snappy acronym stands for.
Proof of concepts.
Proof of concept,
yeah.
Of course. You knew that, really. Stuart, we'll go to you. In terms of your work with construction clients and what they're sort of telling you around adopting tech, just describe a little bit about your work, please.
Yep. Thanks for that, Paul. I think it's been a fascinating morning, but I do feel like a bit of a fraud, and worse than that, Dominic has described me as a Stone Age fraud, in that I'm not involved in prop, I'm not involved in tech, I've grown up in construction, and contractors that we work with, I've heard about customer experience from Darryll and Melanie. Contractors care about cost, they care about program, and for them, all of this is quite interesting, but unless it has value, they won't embrace tech whatsoever. And that sounds like doom and gloom, but there are success stories. So we've heard about collaboration as well, and within the world of construction, we're using AR to streamline the design process, where we are using customers to engage in that design process right from the outset, so there are fewer changes during the construction phase itself. During the construction phase, fantastic new techniques which are coming on stream, smarter techniques, using composite materials, there's self-healing concrete that's out there, sensors that are being used in concrete to determine whether or not defects are occurring during the construction phase. All of that is speeding up the program. And at the back end, we're also seeing the use of data to ensure that we have much smarter FM. So we are dinosaurs, we're trying not to be dinosaurs, and we are embracing tech, but I think within the world of construction, we accept that we are playing catch-up.
Can I just one thing, just to add to that. So customer experience isn't just about having a wiki website or just the soft bit of it. Actually, it's understanding your customer and understanding what's important to them. So for you, cost is important, and actually you focusing on that is customer experience. But to go with that as well is it's all of the other things on either side of that delivery. So it's that engagement that you've got with them at the very beginning, whatever's important to them. Actually, all of that offline plus online experience is all part and parcel of customer experience. So if cost is that, so for us, for our investors, the return is the most important thing to them. So we're making sure that everything that we're doing is providing them the best return. But then all of the other things around that, whether it be how we provide them the information, so some of the investors want detailed interactive information, all of that kind of starts to feed into customer experience.
Yeah.
Okay, we've heard a lot about collaboration today, and Chris, from a VC point of view, I was wondering how, because a lot of VCs, and tell us whether you fit into this, there's exclusivity when a property partner or backer in your fund invests in a startup, that they won't work with other rival property companies. How does that square with the sort of collaboration piece?
Good question. So we do see that. We see some property companies who don't want to invest in startups where their competitors are invested in, and primarily that's because of data sharing, which is a whole nother issue. From a VC perspective, we collaborate very regularly with VCs. So we have good relationships with VCs around Europe and frankly the US and other parts. And because PropTech is so new and we specialize in it, and for example, the background that I have in property and construction, we very regularly have VCs come and say, we like this, what do you think? If you do, we would like to invest with you. And it also goes to the network or the partnerships that we've developed, which is that added benefit of saying, not only do we feel like it's a good investment, but we can get it out into a network. So frankly, I would like to invest with other VCs.
Okay, and from a property company, whether it's agent or developer, investor, would you collaborate? Do you collaborate with your peers?
Well, I think to take that from a property consultancy perspective, Radius, which is a joint sort of venture, I guess, with EGI and up to 20 of the large property companies, is exactly that. It's looking at data share and how we use the information to our mutual best advantage. Historically, JLL and CBRE particularly have, because of the size of our organisations, have been quite protective of the data that we generate, because we thought that's what gave us our sort of edge, our USP. Whereas now we think that data is going to be ubiquitous, and it's what you do with that information. It's how you analyse it, how you use it to give extra value to your clients. So we're definitely seeing it with our competitors, but also in broader industry.
And for us, so we're also on the EG, the radius board as well. So we are proponents of sharing data, of working with others. We personally working with a lot of proptech firms out there as well. I think for us, it's trying to, again, and I'll keep banging on about it, it's, what's the customer experience, because that's driving our strategy. What are the things that are going to be important to us for 2018 or 2019 to say, right, well, actually, let's work with this particular proptech firm this year because, it's delivering on, one of the issues that we've got or one of the strategies that we have. Then another year, it'll be a different thing. But we are open to working with anyone.
And sorry, in construction, only in construction could you have something called forced collaboration. but that's what we're finding, that with the use of BIM and design teams and early engagement with contractors, that they are starting to engage with designs at the outset, which is helpful.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about data because I think we're at a crossroads. I personally think that, so I think that there should be more sharing, but I think we're at a crossroads of, and this may be a little bit controversial, that we could go either way. And and I think that with the things that have happened from a commercial perspective, or a individual's perspective of the breaches in Facebook and others, that I think we may have a little bit of a kickback from people who say, I don't want my data sharing. And it's been said that data is the new oil. And if I have oil in my ground, I'm not going to share it with people. If I have if I have data from my building, from my construction project, I'm going to use that. And the ubiquitous part might be the sensors, and the data is going to be what's valuable. So I don't know which way it's going to go.
But I think for us, so one of the key things is that, as you're absolutely right, it could go either way. But what I don't want within the property sector is actually it being mandated on us by government or by any other external.
I don't want it mandated. It should not be.
So within the fintech firm, you've got the what was the policy that just came out? To basically the banks need to start sharing their data because customers were saying, well, actually, we want access to our information. We want to be able to do more with it. And actually, the fintech firms were coming in and starting to chip away because those customers wanted a different way to experience. And what we don't want then is that same thing happening within property. And then you're like to see Google and Microsoft coming along and saying, all right, well, hey, we'll just make everything open. We'll make it easy for you. And then we're just left in the wind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the data and the sensors leads on to the security. How easily hackable are sensors and Alexa and other devices, which is something I think will come in soon as well, that discussion. And in terms of questions from the floor, anybody? Because take one there and then one at the front.
Hi, my name's Gary and I'm from a company called Mashbo. We're a software development consultancy, but we're also invested in some proptech startups. So from an investment point of view, what turns you off? So like if we knock on your door and we present the wrong thing, what's going to get the door slammed in our face? Because obviously we want to get further, we want to get investment in what we're doing.
Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with that. I guess we see a lot of solutions that don't answer the problems that we've got or the problems that we see that we've got and our clients have. So, for example, we haven't bought much off the shelf. We've created Spark, which is our venture capitalist sort of company to invest in things which we think have potential, and we are doing that. But we're also not scared of creating stuff, from the ground up, getting a team of developers involved to help us create something that is bespoke for us, answering the questions that we have. So then it's being able to pull information that we want from different sources to enable us to make that platform work. So I guess it's being open to that and coming with an idea that actually does respond to a real problem rather than a guessed one.
And for us, we're a smaller firm, so we don't have the same kind of budget. And I think for us, if that proptech firm is actually solving a specific problem, then the door will never be slammed. And it may just be a case of it's delayed until another time. But I've seen a lot of firms in the 8 months that I've been here, and we haven't shut the door on a lot of them, but we've had to kind of say we're not even ready yet. So that may be some of the things that people will be experiencing and some firms will be experiencing. I've had to turn away some just purely because our data wasn't in a position to be able to say, hey, we can provide this to you now. Now we can kind of integrate. The culture that's there as well has an effect. So some of the reasons that we turn some away is just purely because the solution is actually solving the problem that we have, but we're just not ready to be able to embrace it. So there are lots of diverse reasons. For us, we went with Coyote because it was solving all the problems. It got us on that, got us moving in the right direction, started to help us structuring some of our data. But now, because of that, and some of the other work we're doing, we're now able to start saying, well, actually, I'm going back now to previous firms I had spoken to at the very beginning and saying, we've now got our data in a structured format. Now can we see what we can do?
Okay, there's a question at the front.
Okay, yeah. Matt Burnham. We're back on the data side of things because I think that's where a lot of stuff will hinge. We talk a lot about data sharing, but who actually owns the data?
Good question. It's a good question. I actually question that. So the way we operate in today's world is that do you own your data? Google, you give it to Google freely, so is it now theirs? And I would question the same thing in a property perspective. We're struggling with answering that same question with some of the startups. If an office occupier, certain offices don't want that data to be captured and used, some offices are willing to do that. And there's not a clear understanding quite yet about who can gather and use it. And I think that will dictate where we go at this convergence.
Anybody else?
I think it's a brilliant question. It is, everything is very much up in the air. So we're looking at one of our BTS developments, and we've said, from the get-go, everyone we collaborate with, needs to be able to be using BIM to a certain level, etc. But one of the things I then asked was, because as I started to understand a bit more, well, actually there are lots of applications for what we could do with this. So in contracts, who actually owns this? What can we do with it? And there isn't anything to date. Some will say yes, the architects own it, but we, what was it? The architects owned it, but we kind of give it to you so that you can do whatever you want with it. But then once someone realizes, well, actually, the amount of money that you're making off of that and the applications you can do with that, then that the contract comes out immediately. It's like, oh, why are we not getting a share of this? We actually own this. You don't have the rights to kind of do anything with this. And it is, as we understand and take a hold of that data, even the consumers themselves, the people, the customers in the building, they're going to say, well, actually, we haven't given you the rights to be able to track wherever we're going or whatever we're doing. So what are the implications associated with that? And it's going to be a fascinating struggle over the next, I said, years. But who owns it? What can you actually do with it? And where can you use it afterwards? Buildings are bought and sold. Who then owns the right to that? When you buy another building, do you get all of the previous information? Who needs to be involved in that conversation going forward? There are lots of questions that are going to come from it. But it's a great question.
The world of construction is finally waking up to that. There was a case, I think it was last year, where a consultant wasn't paid and it withdrew the license to the BIM model. So the whole project came to a grinding halt. And I think finally contractors are waking up to they do have an asset that they can leverage off. So it'll be interesting to see how builders and FM contractors use the data that they collect.
Okay. Big question at the top there on Slido we'll finish with. When presented with so many choices of solution, how should property companies considering tech go about deciding which solutions to try? What's been your approach when people come knocking?
My approach is that I want to try them all. I think every firm out there, is solving a problem. Whether or not it solves my problem, our company's problem is another question. But we're in a slightly unique position where we're able to just plug something in and give it a try, see if it works. If it doesn't, then we move on. And I think back to the whole, when people were talking about the B2C and B2B, actually in the B2C world, you can just sign up to something if you don't like it. You're not signed into like a 1-year contract, costing 10 grand or whatever else. You can just dip in and out and see what works for you and what doesn't. So for me, trying as many as you can, but don't see it as, you're failing. Actually look at it as you're finding a better way to kind of understand what works for your company and what doesn't. Because if you're not trying things, then you actually don't know. You're just kind of walking in blindly and not really knowing where to go. So for us, we've tried quite a few, and actually it's helped us in our decision making to kind of focus on which proptech firms are we actually interested in, what are the problems that we actually trying to solve. Because when I came in, they're like, oh, we want to solve everything. But actually when you start to test them, there are only certain things that we really need to solve in 2018 or in 2019, but trying them is your way of kind of getting to that answer.
Absolutely. And Chris, you must see a lot of, when you've got the big sort of top of the funnel, every startup out there, do you think they're selling well into property generally, or how would you advise them to sell into property?
They are. We are seeing a lot of success with startups selling into it. But I repeat what I said before in that there are companies doing the same thing. And it might be just slightly different, but if you are a startup doing something similar to others, evaluate your business model, evaluate your collaboration, evaluate how you're getting out into the market. And there can't be two doing exactly the same right here in this street, maybe in London, maybe there's 5, I don't know, worldwide, but you need to be careful about how you go about it.
Okay, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's understanding what you're trying to achieve with any collaboration or services that you buy. So Darryll are investing quite heavily in building that team of people from a very different background to what we have done historically, to analyse what we do as a business and what things could help us achieve some efficiency savings or answer some questions we've not been able to do in the past. Because you need that understanding before you start investing, I think. So we're very much on the road to doing that. And when you look at all the new recruits coming in, it's people like yourself, innovation officers and technology officers, and the people who give us the understanding exposure to what's out there in the market.
Okay, thanks very much. Nice place to finish. Join me in thanking our panelists. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chris. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, thanks everyone for attending. Hope you found that useful and informative, and we'll take some good takeaways back to your offices and your companies and share with your clients and colleagues. Just before we break, for lunch, just a couple of announcements. Want to thank again our sponsors for supporting and making this PlaceTech Trend Talk London a reality. Manchester Science Partnerships and Bruntwood, Mills and Reeve, Redwood Consulting and OBI. Please fill in the feedback surveys that will be sent out via email after the event. We're keen to hear about not just feedback from today, but what you'd like from future topics, future events, maybe speaker suggestions as we plan 2019's schedule of events. And there's also a link to the feedback form available in the PlaceTech app that hopefully you've downloaded and still got time to do that today. Digital copies of the report will be circulated as well as the presentations, and they're also housed in the app. I know there are people taking photographs of slides during, but rest assured you'll get copies of the presentations. I mentioned at the outset the next quarterly Trend Talk will take place in Stockholm on Tuesday, 29th of January, at the hotel at 6. I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. Before that, next month on 20th of November, we've got the first PlaceTech Big Night Out. It's not all about daytime conferences and the sort of CPD learning. It's very much about networking, gathering people together, forming working relationships and friendships, and the social side of property and tech is something that we want to host as well. So that'll be our first party and dinner, but there's no formalities, there's no dress code, there's no long speeches, but it is very high quality. That's at the Radisson Blu Edwardian Hotel in Manchester. There'll be bands, there'll be entertainment, three-course dinner, etc. So I know some of you are attending that, but 20th of November in Manchester, there's a 20% discount code available to all the attendees today. If you use the promo code TRENDTALK, altogether lowercase TRENDTALK, when registering. There's details of that on our website, placetech.net, and on the app as well. Last but not least, thanks again for coming along, and we'll continue networking and discussion over lunch now. Thank you very much.